Welcome to In Her Voice. My name is Kelly Covert, and I am passionate about helping women live authentically by listening to their inner voice. Get ready to be inspired by women of all walks of life that have set aside their should-bes and not good enoughs and are standing in their true voice, the voice of wisdom that each and every one of us has inside. Hello, everyone. This is In Her Voice, episode 32. My name is Kelly Covert, and I am so excited that you decided to press play today. You are in for a treat. I have on the show today Orly Wahba, and she is the founder of Life Fest Inside. I'm going to read her bio in just a second, but we are talking all about kindness and so much more. Orly Wahba is an educator, speaker, entrepreneur, author, and community activist passionate about inspiring and motivating people to be the best they can be. Orly began her career in kindness as a middle school educator in Brooklyn, New York, teaching the children to embrace unity, build their self-esteem, and use the power they have to influence the world for good. Yearning to make a larger impact with her philanthropic work, and after having been inspired by a small sign on a plane labeled Life Fest Inside, Orly founded Life Fest Inside, a nonprofit organization with a mission to inspire, empower, and educate people of all backgrounds to lead a life of kindness. Life Fest Inside encourages people to embrace the incredible power of giving and recognizes that in times of hardship, kindness, like a life fest, keeps the world afloat. Life Fest Inside shot to national attention when Orly's short film, Kindness Boomerang, went viral, receiving more than 100 million views and coverage in media outlets such as The Today Show, NBC, CBS, Adweek, International Business Times, and more. In 2013, Orly was invited to speak at TED about the power of kindness. And most recently, she has published her first book, Kindness Boomerang, a lesson-a-day book focusing on developing the kindness muscle. I was connected with Orly through Tori Doobie, who was a guest on episode 12 of In Her Voice, and man, am I glad that she connected us. This episode, you guys, is so good. There is so much here. We talk about so much more than kindness. We talk about chasing big dreams and the dream crushers that sometimes come with them. We talk about the difference between giving from strength and giving from weakness, and how essential it is to give inwards first. I'm also excited to share with you guys that 50% of In Her Voice Patreon donations for the month of August will go towards Orly's organization, Life Fest Inside. So if you aren't already a supporter of In Her Voice, you can head over to kellycovert.com/together to get started. And of course, that link and all the links we talk about today are in the show notes for this episode at kellycovert.com/32. Or you can find most of them from whatever podcast app you're listening to. Just hit the little information button there and they will pop up. Let's get to the interview with Orly. Sit back, relax, and get ready to be totally inspired. Welcome, Orly, to In Her Voice podcast. I am so excited to finally have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yes. So Orly and I have been I feel like it's been over a month that we've been trying to connect.
It
and,
has.
Things have been going our way. And so this is meant to be, and I feel like it's going to be an amazing interview today because we've been waiting so long for it.
Oh, for sure. I'm really excited to be able to have the opportunity to speak with you. I love what you're all about.
Thank you. Thank you. And likewise. And so I want to jump right in for our listeners who might not know who you are. Why don't you begin by just telling us a little bit about Kindness Boomerang and Life Fest Inside and about sort of your journey to that and how it's working?
Of course. So basically, I was a middle school teacher for 7 amazing, transformative years. Seriously, I miss my students every single day. And I left my job teaching 6 years ago to start Life Best Inside. And it's a nonprofit organization with a mission to inspire, empower, and educate people from all backgrounds to lead a life of kindness. But if I were really to use one word to sort of sum up the entirety of the organization, more than the word kindness, it would really be the word empowerment. I mean, it's all about empowering people to understand their value, that they matter, that they're significant, that each person is yet another piece of the puzzle with something specific and unique that only they can contribute. I always say, if you're here in this world, if you wake up in the morning and you have air in your lungs, that means that there's something that you're meant to contribute into this world that nobody else can contribute. Otherwise, why would you be here? So everyone has their own role. And kindness is the greatest tool to empower a person to understand that, to understand the fact that they do matter, and to find validation from the right reasons. Because in today's world, people are looking for validation from all of these external things that really don't give you a true sense of validation. I mean, it's not based on how many friends you have or followers you have or likes on your picture or how much money you have in the bank. The truth is, the only thing that can truly give a person a sense of validation is themselves. Happiness comes from within you, and it's through the kindness that you give to others. In that moment is when you catch a glimpse of your true value. And so it's been an amazing journey these past 6 years. And like you mentioned Kindness Boomerang. Kindness Boomerang is what started the entire organization. I shot the film. It's a short film, 5-minute music video, showing one act of kindness as it goes from one person to the next and then comes back to the person who set it into motion. And I shot this during my summer off from teaching. So I have, a couple of months off from teaching, and I had a background in film production. And I said to myself, I want to be able to have the ability to show people how kindness has the power to go from one person to the next so seamlessly and create this ripple effect that the small actions that we do, that we take on, it's not just that one action. It doesn't only live then. It continues and continues to inspire. And so I sat down and I started just writing kindness experiences from my life. These little small moments that left an impression on me. And I had tons of them that came about. So I said, how cool would it be if I was able to show that each one of these led into the next? And so wrote the script in that summer off, got a cast. I was so scared because it had been years since I had done film. Really, it's been 7 years. I was super nervous. And I had a lot of discouragement, I gotta say, of people telling me that I was absolutely nuts. Like, what are you doing? Why are you investing your money in this? Who do you think you're gonna actually impact? Like, you think you're gonna make a difference in the world? Tons of that kind of stuff coming at me. But I felt that it was something I was meant to do. I felt like it was something speaking to me from deep within myself, that inner voice that really had been there ever since I was a little kid that dreamed of changing the world. And so I pushed forward. And I'll never forget the day that we shot this film. It was all done in one day because it's one shot. It shows how one act goes from one person to the next to the next. And I remember that morning standing on that street in Red Bank, New Jersey, before anyone got there. It was like 6:30 in the morning, super quiet. And I was just quiet with myself and, in a sense, listening to my inner self. And I said, I know that something special is going to take place on the street today. I have no idea how it might reach anybody, but I feel like this is something I was meant to do. It was a super magical day. Seriously, super magical. After I shot the film, almost like 2 days after, I was back in school teaching, but that inner voice of mine, that little kid, that 4-year-old kid that always dreamed of changing the world, was speaking back at me and saying, if you believe in this enough, Orly, you got to go all in. This can't be, the dream that you say, oh, I coulda, shoulda, woulda. You got to try it. So I took a leap. A couple of months after, I went to the school and I told them that I'm going to be taking the following year off. And nobody believes me. I was like, they called me the forever 8th grader because no one loved being in school more than I did. And I said, if I believe in this enough, I got to try it. And so I did that. I hadn't shown the film to anyone for 1 year. I shot it September 1st, 2010. No one saw it for a whole year.
Oh my goodness.
That following year, September, was the first time ever in my life that I wasn't on a school schedule. I mean, I went from high school to college to teaching, one after the other. came beginning of September and I didn't have to go back to school. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is pretty crazy. And I had this film and I'm super perfectionist, super. And I wanted my website to be ready and this to be ready. It was only a couple months. I was like, how come everything is not just coming together? And it was the beginning of October and I said, you know what? I can't hold on to this film any longer. I got to just post it. I'm going to post it. I know everything is not ready. I have no idea how anyone's going to see it. I knew nothing about social media, nothing about marketing, like really nothing. I had to YouTube a video of how to upload a video to YouTube and posted this film online. I have no idea what took place. The film just went crazy viral within the first couple of months. And all I was doing those first 2 months was just responding to comments. That's all. I didn't have a website. I didn't have anything. I didn't even have a Facebook page. I would just be sitting and responding to comments 21 to 22 hours of the day, literally. People from all over the world, writing in their own language. Google Translate was my best friend. Everyone's like, how do you know all these languages? I said, Google Translate. And just connecting with people and hearing people talk about kindness. And it was amazing to see. And when there were certain, and I would sort of in a sense be like a moderator on the YouTube comments, because sometimes there would actually be fights that broke out. I know that sounds pretty weird on a kindness video. How could you have fights breaking out? But people getting mad at others. How come people are hating this video? How come people dislike the video? Or even just religious conflicts. There would be people from one religious sector that would say, oh, we love this. This is what we believe in. And then you had people coming and bashing them. And coming in and being able to moderate and help people see another perspective. Not trying to change anybody, because you can never change someone. I'm not looking to change anyone. Just looking to offer a new perspective and giving a person opportunity to choose to see things in that way or to see things continue in the same way that they saw them. Suddenly, people that were angry and fighting with one another turned around and became friends. Why? Because dialogue was taking place, where people were having the chance to hear another person and then respond, as opposed to just responding with what they want to say. And when dialogue happens, that's when connectivity takes place. And that's where change ensues. It was amazing to see. And I mean, that was Kindness Boomerang sparked everything.
That's, I mean, I have goosebumps. I just hearing you talk about that morning before you shot the film, you know, that it was early in the morning. Like I can just picture you there in that moment, knowing, but not knowing.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Right?
It's funny. I stumbled on a video that we shot. We had somebody taking, B-roll during the day of the production. And I stumbled on some video just about, I don't know, maybe a year or two ago. And it was one of my friends being interviewed. And I was laughing when I saw this. And they asked her, okay, how do you think this is going to reach anybody? You think people are going to see this? She goes, I don't know. I really think that this video was going to even go past New Jersey and Brooklyn, like New York. I'm like, I really think people are going to see this. And watching that and hearing that, and also just hearing video of me speaking about it, like I didn't know how it was going to reach people, but I knew that there was something calling to me to do this. And it was a message that I was being called to do ever since I was young. And I finally was ready to answer the call. And that's not easy to do. It's scary, because what happens if you fail at pursuing that dream? That's why most people leave a dream as a dream. People rather say that I could have, should have, would have. Oh, I could have done that. I should, because the fear is, well, what if I pursue the dream and I don't actually make it become a reality? What if I fail? Then I lost that dream. So sometimes people rather keep the dream than actually pursue it.
Right.
But when you pursue something, and even if it doesn't work out, just because something doesn't work out doesn't mean it's a failure. But it is scary.
Yeah. And I think that, a failure, I'll put that in quotation marks, can be one of our greatest teachers.
100%.
I know it has been for me. That's where I grow and learn and become more of who I am. And so I welcome that.
I couldn't agree with you more.
I want to go backwards in time. So you said that from the time that you were 4, you knew you were going to change the world. You knew there was something big for you. And I'm curious to know, having had that 4-year-old dream inside of you all this time, Was there a time in your life where you pushed it aside, where you said that that's not for me, where you said, I don't know about that?
1,000%. I did. I was definitely a big dreamer. And a lot of that was instilled in me by my dad, who's a dreamer as well. Always believing the things that people say are impossible. And he made me believe that anything I wanted to do was possible. And I felt it. I felt like there was a reason that I was meant to be here, and that had to do with bringing people together, uniting people. And a lot of it stemmed initially from when I was a kid in terms of like religious animosity. Not understanding where religious animosity came from. And wanting to be able to help people see beyond just these labels, you know. Growing up as a young kid, school was not very easy for me. I wasn't able to learn very easily. And I was often told that I couldn't do things. Not by dad, but just by people in my surroundings. Oh, you're so naive. You think that you're going to make a change. You think you make a difference. And a lot of that was very much told to me as a young kid. And like I mentioned, school was very, very hard for me. It was very hard for me to learn. When I was in third grade, I was in a resource room, which is like smaller group of kids. They take some kids out of the regular classroom and they're teaching them in a much smaller setting. And I was really embarrassed by it because people would poke fun at it. Oh, she has to learn in a much smaller setting. Oh, she can't. And it really took a stab at my confidence level. But I'll never forget my third grade resource room teacher. One day she came into the classroom and she gave us this poem. And she told us, you take this poem, I want you to decorate it. I was 8 years old. I took it, I put it on a piece of pink construction paper, decorated it. But I read it. Not once or twice, but 10, 50 times, 100 times. And the words of that poem really sank in. Maybe I didn't realize it at the time, but it actually guided me through many different points in my life where I stopped believing in that dream. Not in the dream, but in the ability that I had to actually accomplish it. And the words of the poem go as follows. It's by a poet by the name of Walter D. Wintle. It says, if you think you can't do it, you can't. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you'd like to win but think you can't, it's almost a cinch you won't. If you think you'll lose, you're lost. For out in this world we find success begins with a fellow's will. It's all in a state of mind. Life's battles don't always go to the stronger or faster man. For sooner or later, the man who wins is the one who thinks he can. This poem spoke to me in a super powerful way and really guided me through those times. We were talking about those times when I stopped believing in myself. Going into my adolescent years, even starting in middle school, I went through hardships as every middle schooler does. Every middle schooler goes through hardships, even if they might be considered to be the most popular kid in the grade. Everybody has insecurities. Everyone. And for me, in my 7th grade year, I came into school, beginning of my 6th grade year was a fantastic year. I was really very comfortable with my friends and with myself. I came into school my 7th grade year, and my friends just suddenly turned on me.
Oh my gosh, what is it about 7th grade? I'm serious. Like, you couldn't pay me money to go back.
It's such a hard grade. That's why I love teaching 7th and 8th grade, because I know how pivotal of a time it is, because that's when your confidence, it's so fragile and you can go one way or the other. And that's why I loved teaching, because for me, it was always about breaking down those labels, breaking down those barriers, and helping kids see beyond that. See that we all have insecurities. Everybody does. And sometimes it comes off in this arrogant way, or people are putting you down, but it's coming from a place of insecurity, But as a kid, you don't know that. You don't understand that. Even if your parents are telling it to you, you're like, oh yeah, you're just saying that. You don't want to hear it. Mm. And so going through that, I remember going to the nurse's office almost every single day and asking my mom to pick me up from school. Sitting alone, just totally I felt crushed. I just felt so crushed, and I didn't understand why they were doing it. You find that afterwards, oh, people were jealous of you or this or that. But when you're in it, you can't make sense of it. It hurts. My confidence level really went to an all-time low, and that continued into my 8th grade year. And that continued with me into high school. In high school, things are hard enough as it is. You're trying to figure out who you are in the midst of everybody telling you who you should be. Trying to stay true to your values with people suddenly telling you that what you thought is right is wrong and what's wrong is right. And the pivotal moment that happened for me was in my sophomore year of high school. Sophomore year, just like 7th grade in middle school is the toughest year, 10th grade in high school is that year for so many, because you're sort of in between. And in my 10th grade year, beginning of the year, we had a fire in my house and we lost everything. I mean, thankfully we were all okay. I'm one of 5 siblings. We were all okay. But it does something to you when you lose your home and you lose the memories that go with it. You know, all your baby pictures and all that type of stuff. I mean, it's your home. It's a place that you know you can come back to when things are going not so right outside. But it wasn't just the fire. It was a whole string of things, you know. Sometimes when things come, you know, those hard knocks, they come at you one after the other. And it was that type of year. I mean, my dad had lost his business shortly after that. It was one thing after the next continued to go wrong. And seeing my parents crushed me even more. I didn't want to be a burden on them. So instead of sharing what I was feeling, I kept it hidden inside, like really tight. Couldn't talk to my friends. I mean, they didn't know what to say to me, so they would just change the subject. So all these emotions got locked up inside. And it doesn't stay that way for very long. And I tried making like everything was okay. I was always a very positive person, believing everything happens for a reason. I was making jokes about it in the very beginning. Until it came to a point where I couldn't do that anymore. And I went to sleep one night. And I sort of just didn't wake up the next morning. I fell into like a state of sleep. What happened was I fell into a state of really dark depression. And I stopped going to school. I didn't want to go back altogether. Most of the day was spent sleeping. The rest of the day was spent crying. And what hurt me the most was the fact that, you see, I was a super shy kid. I was super shy. And that came from the different, you know, for the years that happened from 7th grade into my high school years. But I always loved people. I always loved people. So if somebody was absent from school, I would copy notes for them, whether I knew them or I didn't know them. And when I was home from school for those couple of months, not one person came to visit. Not one person called to just check in and see if I was okay. And I guess it felt like, well, if I wasn't here tomorrow, would anybody even know? I mean, would anybody even care? So dreaming that I had the ability to change the world, that went right out the door. I didn't even believe that I didn't believe in myself, that there was actually a purpose for me to be here. Mm. So if I didn't believe in that, how could I believe that anything was possible for me to accomplish? My dream went literally right out the window. Just right out the window.
Yeah.
And I wanted to give up on everything. Life itself. I was when I say depression, I was suicidal. And it came to a point, a couple of months after, I was forced to go back to school, even though I didn't want to. And I was, you know, that kid sitting in the corner, you know, dressed all in black, writing morbid poetry. I was like that kid. And one morning I woke up as I was getting ready to go to school. I was washing up and looking at myself in the mirror, but I was like really looking at myself in the mirror. And the scariest thing happened. I didn't see that 4-year-old kid looking back at me. That kid that dreamed that anything was possible. It was like she was gone. And that scared me more than anything. And I made a promise to myself then, 15 years old. And it's a promise that I remember till this very, very day. I tell you, Kelly, it wakes me up every morning. And it's a promise to be there for people the way that I wished somebody would have been there for me. To see people the way I wish somebody would have seen me. And those next couple of years of high school were tough, you know, walking through high school alone.
Right.
But it gave me the greatest opportunity in the world. It gave me the chance to fall in love with me for me and to find that inner voice again in a way that I found it, that now no one could take it away. Because oftentimes we can have a dream, but, you know, when we go through that hardship, when we lose that faith, coming back to finding it within ourselves ensures that no one will ever be able to take it from you again. And through those next couple of years, that's exactly what happened. I found my voice, and it came out in my senior year. I started getting involved in everything I possibly could. It started on a seminar. I was with my classmates on a seminar, we were sitting in a circle and the teacher was talking about obstacles. And I did something I never did before. I raised my hand. I was super shy. I would never speak. And I had something to contribute to the conversation. And what happened was friends of mine, kids that I used to be super intimidated from, peers of mine, were listening to me and, coming to me afterwards and asking me for advice. And what I found is that the more I gave, the more a piece of me began to heal. And the more I gave, the more I healed. And I became in love with this concept and this idea of giving. And what it did for me is it helped me to see myself again. It helped me to connect again with that inner voice, that person that always was there, those thoughts and those feelings that I always had there within me. But it allowed me to hear myself again. And I came into my own. And that's where everything began to transform for me.
What a beautiful story, Orly. Oh my goodness. You're a wonderful storyteller.
Thank you.
And I love hearing you speak into the struggle and the redemption. What is so beautiful to me is that your discovery that giving, which can often feel like it's for someone else, really was a gift you gave yourself.
100%, but I got to tell you something really important, with giving. There's two types of giving. One of them is dangerous. The other one is very beneficial. There's giving from strength and there's giving from weakness. And sometimes people can get these confused. Giving from strength comes from abundance, meaning you're giving, you feel that love for you. You see, if you don't really love you, if you don't truly understand your value, you can't possibly understand the value in other people. But when a person truly loves themselves, now they see the value in everyone. And so their giving is coming from a very, very good place. It's not coming from a place of I'm giving or I'm doing this because I want that person to think I'm this way or that way. Because that can be giving from weakness. And a person that gives from weakness can come to resent that same giving. For me, what I found is that the giving that I used to give before going through this whole thing, it wasn't that it was an impure giving, but it was more of a giving from weakness. The giving after going through this was a giving from strength. And it's very, very different. And so we have to be very careful when we do give to make sure it's coming from that good place. Otherwise, it can hurt us and it can turn us, like I said, to resent that sense of giving. But yeah, when it's sort of like a life vest. I use this example of a life vest, connected to the organization. A life vest, the difference between one that's going to keep you afloat and one that's going to allow you to drown is air. That's it. It's air. When you're blowing into your life vest, when you have a life vest that's deflated and you're blowing into it, you're giving from your air supply. And the more you're blowing into it, the bigger you're making it, the stronger you're making it. But the thing is that if you're not staying afloat, you can't possibly help another person stay afloat. That's why when you're on a plane and they say, in case of an emergency, you have to first secure your life vest and then secure the life vest of the person sitting next to you. Because it's understood that if you're going to drown, then that person's also going to drown. So you need to give inwardly. And once you're strong enough, you have the ability to give outward in a much more powerful way. It's a very important thing to remember, and it's something that we easily forget, myself included. This is not a lesson I learned, and it's like, oh, I learned it, and now I'm living the life. No,
right.
It's a lesson I learn every single day. I come through these struggles still. There's still times where I feel low on myself, and where I question and I doubt myself. Am I really able to make a difference? And that's okay. Sometimes people think like, oh, a person went through the struggle, they got out of it, now their life is made. How are you always happy, Orly? That's not true. I'm not always happy. If I said that, it would be a lie. No one is always happy. It's not about being always happy. It's about knowing how to get ourselves out of it. Knowing to feel the emotions. Because the problem was, the reason I fell so deep is because I didn't listen to my inner voice. I was going through pain. I needed to allow myself to feel that pain instead of ignore it. We need to take ownership sometimes of the pain so that we can come out of it stronger. But if we're going to ignore it and continue to pretend like it's not there, it's not going to be able to be ignored for long. It's going to eat away at us from the inside out, which is much worse.
Yeah, totally. So how do you give inward so you can give with strength?
That's a good question. It's something I still am learning till this very day. Honestly, till this very day. Giving inward comes from number one, we're all very critical of ourselves. We just tend to be very critical of ourselves. But you have to be able to take stops and pauses and look back. Very often we're always looking forward. What's the next thing? What's the next goal I can accomplish? What's the next idea But doing that sometimes makes us feel really low because we never take the time to actually rejoice in our accomplishments. And it's very easy, especially in today's world of digital media. We have so many people that we can compare ourselves to. And so people are constantly comparing themselves to others. Oh, this guy's doing the same thing, and how come he's doing it so great and I'm not, and I'm still in the same place, and things are so hard for me. There's so much more opportunity for us to feel less of a person. It's very easy to get sucked into that world, constantly be comparing ourselves with other people. And the most important thing is to take those pauses, those breaks, and to look back as opposed to looking forward. Look back at how far you've come, at all the things that you have accomplished, and use that momentum, that positive momentum, to propel you forward. Don't always work off of the negative, of the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Look to see how far you've come. That positive energy is going to take you so much further than focusing on the negative, what you haven't done yet. So that's important in terms of giving inwardly. Making sure you take the time to care for yourself, to give to yourself. I'm talking to myself right now because that's probably the hardest thing for me to do. Kindness for ourselves is super hard, especially for people that tend to be givers, because giving feels awesome. It's a really good feeling. Like when you give to somebody else, when you make somebody smile, you feel great. You feel on top of the world because you are catching a glimpse of your own potential in that moment. So sometimes we can get so wrapped up in that feeling that we're constantly giving outwardly and we forget to give inwardly. And it's not easy. It's not easy. And sometimes people only tend to realize it once they've fallen, like they've exerted so much outwardly that they just break. But it's important to have that routine. So something that I've just started establishing again, it's something I used to do several years ago, and I just reestablished it for myself because I realized how important it was for me to find that balance, because it's easy for me to lose sight of it because I love what I'm doing and you're doing something good. It's not like you're doing something bad. Is creating like a daily checklist for myself of things that I want to make sure that I implement. Now, for everyone, it's different. For me, I break it down. There's like personal goals, there's spiritual goals, there's professional goals, but there's certain things that I like to do on a daily basis, whether it be, for me, prayer is a very big thing. Everybody has their own thing. Not everybody connects that. Some people, connect to meditation, but I have that time where I get to connect with myself, connect outwardly with, for me, it's God. For somebody else, it might be something else. That really gives me a tremendous amount. It does. It feeds me. I started now taking walks in the morning. I hope I can continue it, but I've been doing that because it gives me the chance to hear my inner voice, because when we're constantly running to the next thing and the next thing, and I'm that type of person, I always am wanting to do more, we forget to listen to that inner voice. It's there. It's guiding us, but if we're so busy with all of the nitty gritty, sometimes we lose sight of it. We stop hearing it because there's too much other noise. So even segmenting small amount of time allows you to reconnect to yourself, because nobody knows what's better for you than you. You already know it. You have to just trust yourself, because so many people tell us what we should be doing. You should be doing this, and you got to do that, and you shouldn't do this. And we get wrapped into it. We don't realize our inner voice it knows what's better it knows what's great for us. And sometimes we just push it aside. It's reconnecting to it that's very hard, but it's so important.
Yeah, I agree. And I will just echo what you're saying about having that daily checklist. And I think sometimes people who aren't accustomed to creating that space for themselves or making that giving inward time a priority look at people who do it and say, well, it's just really easy for them. And I find it really encouraging on this podcast, on the women that I'm talking to, and knowing in myself, in my life myself, that it's something that I have to be very intentional about.
100%.
And I literally have a checklist
Yeah, same here.
I have a bullet journal, and you know, when I meditate, I X it off. When I
Yep.
exercise, I X it off.
Yep.
And those requirements or that checklist, they actually change for me month by month. I kind of focus on different things each month, but there are some non-negotiables on there. And that's not to say that I do it every day. But I really want women to hear that it's deliberate, that it's purposeful, and that it's not always easy.
And not only that, it's okay. You see, a lot of people have the mindset of all or nothing. I'm one of those people that fell into that bucket, and I work super hard to get myself out of that, to know maybe there's going to be that day where I don't, because the thing, why is a checklist the big thing? Because as human beings, we love to check things off of a list. There's a satisfaction that people get at checking things off of a list. So much so that if they forgot to write something on their checklist, they'll write it just so that they can cross it off. There's a satisfaction. There is. We all do it, by the way.
Totally guilty.
We all totally do it. We just want to write it and then cross it right off because it feels very good. We feel like we're accomplishing. We like to be productive. We like to feel like we are doing. So there is that sense of, and oftentimes you might have seen this in your checklist. I know I've seen it in mine, that when I'm checking off a lot of things, then at the end of the day, when I look at it, the thing that I didn't do, I'll try and get it done just so that I can have a perfect day of everything checked. But the thing is to look at the list even on the days that you weren't able to check off one thing and to not feel guilty.
Right.
We live in a society where so many things, it's always being focused about making us feel guilty. Don't feel guilty for not being perfect. No one is perfect. And you can't, it's okay. It's okay to not be perfect and to have those days where, you know what, you didn't accomplish anything and you sat in your bed and you caught up on, you binge watched a crazy amount of TV or whatever. That's okay. It's okay. It doesn't mean that should be the norm, but it's okay. And sometimes we're so critical of ourselves when we're not, we didn't do it. And then what happens? We stop looking at the list. Like if we're not able to cross things off, after a while, we don't want to even look at the list because the list makes us feel guilty that we're not doing it.
Right. I like to think of my list for myself as a scaffolding as opposed to a ladder.
Yeah.
Right. So if my list is a ladder, it's something that I must climb every day in order to feel accomplished. If my list is a scaffolding, it's something that supports me.
Exactly.
It's something that protects me. It's something that makes my life, my job, whatever you want to call it, easier. And I had to be really clear with myself about that too, because it's easy to fall into that trap of like, okay, meditate, sit for 5 minutes and not really do it.
You're trying
like
to just get it done.
Check it off.
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing that happens when it comes to routines. It's great to have it, but if it becomes too much of a routine also, then you lose sight of it. So it has to come from, for example, if it's going to be something that you're just doing to do that day, as opposed to doing it right, sometimes better just not to do it. Like it's okay to not do it one day, but to be mindful of what you're doing when you're doing it. And that's not easy. It's hard for everybody. It's a daily struggle. One of the things I do on my checklist is like, I'll write down, look at this checklist. So even if I check nothing off, at least I looked at it. I know.
Yeah.
I looked at it because it reminds me what's important. It reminds me of what I know is important. And even if I didn't do it, I always say, every day is a blank canvas, every single day. So maybe you don't like the picture that today is going to look like. Maybe today doesn't look great. It's really not a great picture. But it's okay. The minute you wake up tomorrow morning, you get a new canvas. And you can make it look however you want it to look. But we can't be critical of ourselves from yesterday and the day before. We can't. Because when you wake up in the morning and you have air in your lungs, that's a sign for you. It's a sign that there's a reason why you woke up today. You woke up today because there's something you're going to be able to do that nobody else can do. There's something that you can contribute into this world, even if it's something small, even if it's just smiling at another person, because you don't know how far that smile can go, how many people it can affect.
Yeah.
Everybody has a purpose.
Exactly. And that takes us full circle back to this idea of empowerment. When we can start to go inward and see our value and then give outwardly from that place of strength and start to see other people's value and
That's
spread
it.
that through the language of kindness, that we will change the world when we do
100%.
that.
Kindness is not an action. I always say it's not an action. Kindness is a way of life. It's a way that you look at yourself and a way that you look at the world. To build a kind of world doesn't mean, okay, everybody, go out there and do this kind of action today. If I were to leave everybody with one message, it would be take a look at yourself in the mirror and start falling in love a little bit more with yourself. Because I promise you, if everybody truly loved themselves, it's not arrogant. Confidence and arrogance are opposites. If everyone truly loved themselves, the world would be a kinder place to live, because when we see that value in us, it's natural then when you look up at the world, you're going to see the value in each person. You know that everyone is here for a reason just because you know that you're here for a reason. And we don't value people based on these external things. They're here. They're a human being. You value them because of who they are. You're going to naturally be kinder. But kindness starts with you. That's the only way we could change the world. Why does unkindness exist? It exists because a person doesn't have that love for themselves. So how can they possibly think that you have value? How? How can they see it if they don't even see it in themselves?
Right. Oh my gosh, Orly, this is so amazing. And I just want to thank you so much for what you are doing in the world. Thank you for saying to those dream crushers, who do you think you are that you can change the world? I can do it. And you're out here and you're doing it, and you are totally making a difference. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. The truth is, we all are in our own way. Every single person. You don't need to leave your job and start a nonprofit to make a difference. Because sometimes people feel like, oh, I can't do that. But just by you being you, when you enter into a room, you impact change. Just remember that. It doesn't matter what your career is, what your job title is, how much money you make. Those things don't matter. You don't have to be me or have to be, you, Kelly. Everyone has to be themselves. That's all.
Yeah, just show up as you. And that's your greatest gift
up
to the world.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. Orly, this has been amazing. I want to keep going, but I'm looking at the clock and saying, oh, we need to stop. But I would like for you to share with my listeners how they can connect with you, how they can learn more about Life Vest Inside, and maybe give through that as well.
100%. Well, you can learn more about Life Vest Inside on our website, which is lifevestinside.com. We have a daily newsletter called The Daily Kind. And every day from Monday to Friday, you get an email with an act of kindness, a quote, a positive affirmation, and a small kindness a video of something good that's going on in the world. So it's a really awesome email. It's like a 30-second read. I would definitely recommend people signing up for that. You could sign up for that on the Life Vest Inside website. And we also I have my book that I just came out with a few months ago called Kindness Boomerang. And you could find that at kindnessboomerang.com. It's available on Amazon and in Barnes & Noble and Target, iTunes, IndieBound. And it's a lesson-a-day book in kindness. And I've heard some amazing stories of people utilizing this book. And every day of the year has an act of kindness, inspirational quote, and a short reflection on the power of paying it forward. And there are 12 categories of kindness that repeat throughout the course of the book, whether it be kindness with yourself, with strangers, with nature, on the go, in the workplace, in the school. It's a really great book, and the proceeds from that book go to the organization. Life Vest Inside is a nonprofit, so you can definitely make a contribution on our website at lifevestinside.com, or even purchase merchandise. We have acts of kindness cards. We have catching kindness cards that are also available on our website for people to purchase. And of course, you could follow us. You can definitely check us out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. And you could subscribe to us there at Life Vest Inside. And stay in touch. We have so many things coming up. We have our worldwide Dance for Kindness event coming up in November. It's a global flash mob to kick off World Kindness Week. So there's tons of ways to get involved, but you can find all this information out on our website. And reach out to me. I answer every single email. You could reach me at Orly at lifevestinside.com.
Oh, wonderful. And I will put links to all of that goodness on the show notes for this episode at kellycovert.com. Just hit the podcast tab and you can find it all right there. So, Orly, I have one last question for you that I like to ask all of my guests. And
Sure.
That is, what is your inner voice telling you in your life right now?
That's a really great question. My inner voice is telling me that there's something bigger for me that I don't even know about yet, and that I have to take a chance and take a risk. So I'm in the process of figuring that out and trying to listen to it as much as I can.
Oh, I love it. And I can't wait to see what that will be.
Same here.
That's really exciting. Well, I just want to honor and acknowledge you for your kindness to yourself, and then turning that back around into kindness for others and all of the giving that you do day in and day out. Thank you for being you, Orly.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity.
You're welcome. And I'm sure we'll be talking soon. Wow, you guys. She is something else. Oh my goodness. I'm so privileged to have had Orly on in her voice. And I hope that you guys were able to have some really great takeaways from that conversation. One of the things that really struck me about what she was saying in the beginning of the interview was this idea that kindness becomes an equalizer. So when we start to see each other through the lens of our own love, we see everyone else's goodness. We see their kindness. We see that they're just one of us, regardless of our differences, regardless of our politics, regardless of our religion, right? Love is love is love, and kindness is the equalizer among us. And so when we are kind to ourselves and we're kind to others and we give from that place of strength, that's literally life-changing. It's life-changing for us, for ourselves, but it's also life-changing for the people around us. And so I just really encourage you to start looking at your connections in your life from that lens. And also the importance of giving inward. So important. And I know you guys hear me say it all the time, that it's a practice that we must do and we must dedicate ourselves to over and over and over again. But I feel that in the interviews, in this interview and in all of the interviews that we've done on In Her Voice, it always comes back to this idea that we must love ourselves. We must love ourselves enough to give ourselves space and time and care in order to be able to connect with our inner voice. And when we do that, we find that that inner voice has amazing plans for us because we are important, because we are here for a reason. And like she said, you don't have to quit your job and go start a nonprofit. Maybe it's how you smile at your Starbucks barista. Maybe it's touching a mom on the arm, even if you don't know her, if you see that she's struggling, and saying to her, "You're doing a great job today. I see you. I'm loving you today." This is how we change the world, you guys. And I'm getting really emotional just thinking about this, because it's that love, and we must love ourselves first. We must love ourselves first. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for pressing play. Thank you for listening. If you really feel that you're getting value from this podcast, I ask you to pay it forward. Share it with a friend. Share it with a sister, with your mother, with your neighbor. And also consider becoming a supporter of In Her Voice. When you support In Her Voice financially, you help me reach more women with this message. And it's a message that we must love ourselves so that we can love others. Thank you for all that you are. Thank you for being you. You are worthy.